Hello, everyone. I hope as you're watching this, you are in a good place. You are having a good week. Can you believe this is the last week of the intensive? Well, at least the intensive round one. This is our 8th week and probably the 11th consecutive week since we began. And this has been quite a journey. I'm really excited. I'm so glad all of you were a part of my first experience doing this intensive. And I'll definitely have to put together a survey to get some feedback from you on what can be improved, what could be changed, what could be a little bit different. I've already been making some changes and iterations along the way as I've gotten a little bit of feedback, but definitely want to make this program something that is easy to consume, easy to apply. I mean, the big changes we want to make are never easy, but I want to set people up for success. I want to set you guys up for success. I want anyone in the future who does this program to be set up for success, and your feedback will definitely contribute to that. So, okay, I'm going to get right to it and deliver the content again this week. Part 2, very tangible. So this may not require a lot of explanation or storytelling. So this may be easy for you to watch the whole way through in one sitting. So starting off with the quote from Marianne Williamson, the whole point of the intensive to get us to this place. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. And I was talking with a client today. She's a new client, so I was breaking down energy leadership and the energy levels and why through the process of changing our own mindset and our own perspective, we can actually change behavior in other people. She had some trust issues at work. In fact, one of the people she works closely with, another leader within the company, there was a point in her career where he didn't know her very well. She was a very young employee, and her department had gone through some turbulent times and was not performing well, and there were a lot of people fired. And she was, I don't know how to put it, she wasn't necessarily on the chopping block, but her employment was in question. However, they were also thinking she could be promoted and become the new leader within the department. And she found out this gentleman who's a leader in a department that was not her department, but worked closely with her department, back during this time had said that they didn't need to promote her. They could promote him into that position and they could fire her. Right. And so I don't know how she found out this information, but she did. And so she said she'd never confronted him with it, but there was no trust with this person, and rightly so. And one of the things I was not intentionally hired for, but the work that needs to be done with this woman, and she's amazing, brilliant, fabulous at her job, but nobody knows her within the organization. She's heads down, she does her work, she delivers amazing results, but she doesn't talk about it. So she's in a situation where very few people within the company know how awesome she is. And one of her struggles is that people don't give her the respect that she deserves, or she feels like there's conflict or tension, or people don't see her as she really is. And sometimes when things happen, they seem to question her motives, which drives her crazy because she's a woman of deep integrity. So when her motives are questioned, like she'll lose sleep at night. So the whole point of me telling you this story is we got to the point, I was doing the energy leadership assessment debrief with her. And I was talking about how when, you know, your beliefs change, your thoughts change, and then the results you get are changed. And so you don't have to white knuckle it anymore. You can trust that people will do what they're supposed to do, and you can have hard conversations without fearing a horrible outcome. And I knew as soon as I was delivering that information to her, I had to explain it. And I said to her, can you see how when people get to know the real you and what you're capable of, what you've done for that company, and the vision you have of your department in the future, they will trust you more and know you more and speak of you differently and make decisions differently around you. And so they'll be able to trust you more. And as a result, you'll be able to trust them more. And that this gentleman, yes, as harsh as it is to hear that he had these thoughts about you 2 to 3 years ago, can you see how maybe he said that not because he wanted to stab you in the back or betray you, but just because he didn't know what you were capable of, like who you really were and what you were capable of, that potentially he thought that what he was saying and what he was proposing was actually a good idea and something that was good for the company, because he had no idea what you were capable of. And she saw that, right? So this is part of why when in Marianne Williamson's quote, why it's so powerful, that when we liberate ourselves, right, when she owns who she is and lets that shine and lets other people shine too, she'll not only liberate herself, she will liberate others. She will give other people permission to do the same, especially when you see a woman leader who owns who she is, what she's capable of, you know, what she delivers. And it's not bragging. Like when you see that, you suddenly realize, well, I can talk about myself that way. You know, I remember this even applied to a man. I was at my BNI meeting doing my presentation, and I was talking about corporate trainings. And I got up and I said, I am really, 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 really good at this. Like I always get rave reviews. And my saying that gave the lawyer in the room permission to say, I'm really good at what I do. And in fact, the commercial real estate agent came up to me after the meeting and he said, you probably don't realize it, but by your saying what you said about yourself, you gave him permission to say what he said about himself. I thought that was hilarious, because we don't think of men as holding themselves back from bragging, but some of them do. Some of them are, you know, very hesitant to say, I'm awesome and amazing at the work I do. So you never know that when you own who you are, what you're capable of, and you speak it to the world, like the permission you grant anybody to do the same for themselves. So I will stop rambling. There must be some reason why someone who's watching this recording needed to hear that. That I trust. So the topic for today, our last topic, as we kind of like, not necessarily like not bringing this program to the end. It's almost like bringing this program to the beginning. So as we are ready to like really take this out into the world and do something with it, is staying motivated and avoiding common pitfalls. And how apropos is this topic after 2 weeks of me on the podcast talking about The Dip by Seth Godin? Because that's what this section of the intensive is all about. Like now that we have our goals and we're energized and we're starting to put them into play, guess what happens? Like things don't go exactly according to plan. Like, yeah, a lot of exciting things happen in the beginning. Like opportunities come up and we're talking to people, and then we're rolling up our sleeves and we're doing the work, and we'll hit an obstacle and we might hit another. And then something that has nothing to do with our goal in another area of our life blows up, and all of a sudden all of our attention has to get diverted away from our goal towards life. Like these things happen. But I want to give you guys, and I outlined them in my book, I'm going to talk about them here. And the homework is all about this. It is designed to help you create your plan with all of these 10 things that you need to do to hit your goal and stay motivated, or I should say stay motivated to hit your goal. So definitely do the homework, because each question applies to one of these things. So here we are. The first thing you must do to meet your goal and stay motivated while you're doing it is to create your personal mission statement. This was from week 4 of the intensive. If you have not done it yet, do it now, and put it into the first part of the homework. It's number 1. Write the personal mission statement you created in week 4 below. If you don't have that mission statement hanging somewhere where you can see it, I also want you to do that as well. We need those reminders. We need that, the visual cue, that, and even because it's written, it's words, you can read it every day to remind you of who you are and what you want to bring to the world. I know, I was thinking about this today. I think about this occasionally because it's absolutely true. When I get stressed out in my business, or I'm starting to procrastinate because I really don't like the work that I'm doing, it usually means that I focus on myself and how the work is impacting me and what I want to be doing, in a given moment. Because most of us, probably don't want to be doing proposals and estimates and, the bookkeeping or the nitty gritty. I mean, some of us might appreciate pieces of those things, but we all have tasks that don't get us really excited. But I'll guarantee you that those tasks are tied to something bigger, right? Now, if it's bookkeeping and you hate bookkeeping, you know my answer to that: outsource it. But there are some things that you must do, right? You have to do. For me, sometimes it's creating the content or the worksheets or the slide presentation that isn't always the piece that gets me really excited, except when I think in my mind as I'm doing those things, I think about the people I'm going to be delivering it to. Like, what impact is it going to have on them? Even doing the slides, in the worksheets, I don't get super excited about that. But when I have in my head the person or the people I imagine is going to be there and how this is going to help them, not only is it better, right? Like the slide looks better, the worksheet is more clear, but I'm actually enjoying it because I'm not thinking about like, oh, I'm doing this slide and I have to line things up and get colors right and get the words right, and this is so tedious, blah, blah, blah. Or the worksheet, it's like, oh, it must be done and yada, yada, yada. You got to create the form and make it editable and blah, 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 blah. When I can step away from that and think about the impact, like the bigger mission, it makes it a lot easier. And I'll say sometimes really enjoyable to do that work. So having that mission statement reminding us of what's at stake, what's the big picture of why we're doing the little things we do, super helpful to help you stay motivated. The second one, the positive doers, right? Who are the positive doers you're going to spend more time with? Oop, I forgot the question mark on the form. You're going to have to forgive that. And I thank you for your forgiveness. There's a couple of things with this. You not only want to be around positive people only because they are energizing. Now, I'm not saying the type of people who can't have a bad day. Of course, we can all have a bad day. But overall, these are the type of people who are like, let's stay above it. Let's not like fall into gossip. Let's not fall into self-pity. Let's not fall into just complaining all of the time. If we have a problem, let's do something about it, right? Like, these are the types of people who, they face challenges and their problems and their things that need to be dealt with. And they may at one moment, go, God, really? Is this really happening? But then they are doing something about it, right? Those are the people you want to be around, because they'll help you keep your energy up, help you keep your eye on the prize, so to speak, focus on what needs to be done rather than what is going wrong, right? They're dealing with things. Now, here's another thing. You don't just want to surround yourself with positive doers, but can you surround yourself with people who have a goal similar to yours, right? Who are facing the same challenges. I know when I was starting my coaching business. Being around other coaches who were in business as well made a big difference for me. And also, being around coaches who were at different levels of their business was very helpful too. Like, it was great and energizing to be around the coaches who were like at the same level I was, starting out brandy new. But then the coaches who had started their business a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, to kind of absorb their knowledge and their experience. But also, it was nice to be around people who understood what I was going through. When I was training for the marathon, you bet I was hanging out with people who were training for not just a marathon, but an endurance event, right? Because they were doing similar things. They also had crazy eating plans and workout schedules, and they had to be in bed early so they could get their workout done in the morning. Like, I understood them and they understood me. There were people in my life I had to explain, or at least say, look, just put up with this for a little while because this is what's going to help me train for the marathon. Like, I know I'm going to bed at 8 o'clock and that bums you out, but I need to do this. I know I gave up alcohol and you want to go have a drink, and I know that bums you out. And no, I'm not going to eat the desserts that are being served because they were all made with refined sugar, and I'm not eating refined sugar right now. And that's fine. These were still positive, good people. They just didn't always understand what I was doing. So sometimes it was just really nice to be around people who were kind of taking on the crazy I was taking on in my life, because they really got it. If you're somebody who constantly has to be doing coffee dates and meetings and, that sort of thing, other people who have similar schedules are going to understand what you're going through. And they may even have some tips for how to make things easier, how to do follow-up, how to make the most of a meeting. So yes, surround yourself with positive doers, but also find the people who have similar goals or are doing some similar things as you are doing. The third one, get creative. Like, yeah, there are people out there who are like, I've hit 6 figures in my business within 2 years, and I can teach you how to do that too. And, sometimes what you find is you start following their program, and you're like, this is not me at all. This is not my style. Sometimes those formulated ways of doing things don't work, not because they can't work, but they're cookie cutter, right? They don't suit everybody. So part of it is you have to go within and figure out what's going to work best for you. Like, not everybody reaches success with the same steps, And that's why, these things of like these blog posts that say the one secret or the 3 things you must do and well, there's always examples of how somebody did it totally differently and they still achieved success because they had different strengths, different personalities. Their target market was different. That's why, like, when you see a blog post that says the best time to post on Facebook, well, that all depends on your target market and when they're on Facebook and, all of that. So, try to, although, there's nothing wrong with checking out some cookie cutter programs, also really recognize that it's going to take going within. It's going to take being creative to get you to where you need to be. So you want to have people you can talk things through with who aren't going to try to make decisions for you or be like, you have to do this or you should do this. You want to sleep on it. You want to meditate, go for a walk, like draw a picture, that sort of thing. Like, be creative to get at the heart of what's really going to work for you and what's going to make the difference for you in your business. Number 4 is give thanks, and in the homework, it's, start a gratitude journal. Like, be thankful, focus on abundance. It's a mentality thing. How we experience life, there was a saying I heard when I was in my coach training, that energy flows where your attention goes. Like, what are you putting your attention on? Because if you're putting on you like, yes, problems have to be dealt with, right? You can't ignore problems and pretend they don't happen, but your energy goes towards the solution of the problem and not the complaint of the problem, And so we also want to make sure our attention is going towards what is going right? Like, we want energy flowing to what is going right. We want more of that. We want to see more of that. We want to focus on more of that. Even if it means, like, part of it is like figuring out how all those things happen in the first place. If one week all of a sudden you got 3 new clients, what led up to that? Like, focus on that. Like, not only be thankful for what led up to that, for that happening, be thankful for what led up to that, right? Like, expand your awareness so that you're capturing and you're appreciative of everything that is going right in your life. That is an abundance mindset, and it creates more abundance. It flows energy in that direction. It's so important. Number 5, let go of the past. Release what no longer serves you. I think too often we can disrupt something good that's going on in our life because we bring old stuff into the picture and we get all like caught up and triggered by it. So when you feel as if something negative has come into the space, that's the experience I typically have. Like, things are happening, things are going okay, and then all of a sudden I feel like something negative came into the space. Like, I have a feeling and I can't shake it. Like, I don't know why I'm feeling like a low grade anxiety, or why I can't calm down and just enjoy the day. Typically what's happening is something from my past is starting to encroach on the present. I had a day within the past week where things were going well, not perfectly, like opportunities were coming. Some of them worked out, some of them didn't, that sort of thing. But then new opportunities were coming in, some worked out, some didn't. That's the way it goes. And all of a sudden I just, and part of it was like that, the focus, like, energy flows where your attention goes. I was focusing on the missed opportunities and like, God, what happened? Like, why didn't that work out? And da 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 da. But then another thing happened. Like, all of a sudden I got reminded of a summer where, like, one thing after another, just one opportunity after another just blew up and fell apart and all of this stuff. And by the end of July, I felt like a wreck, like I was pulling my hair out, like, what is going on? And da 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 da. That feeling I had, and that was years ago. God, that must have been like 5 years ago. That feeling I had that July, I could feel that now. And so that's what let me know, like, my mind is starting to go there. Like, the past is starting to influence my present. And I had to very intentionally, like, think through what was going on, feel my feelings, and remind myself, like, that was 5 years ago. That is not what is happening now. My business is totally different. My life is totally different. I am different. I am way more aware of my abilities, my value, and I'm much more savvy also on how to, bring about new business, to find more opportunities for training, or, to meet more people who might need some coaching, that sort of thing. So, just notice when thoughts of the past and things that happened before, when it's starting to encroach on your current goal and situation, because it has no business being there. Unless it's there to inform you of a new solution or a new idea or a new opportunity, it has no business. It's just there to try to trip you up. So, is there something that needs to be forgiven? Do you need to forgive yourself for making a mistake in the past? Do you need to forgive people who aren't hiring you, or somebody who said no to you? Do you need to release that and forgive them for it? Or totally separate situation. It could be a friend or a family member, or, you know, somebody who was rude to you in a store. Do you need to forgive them to release, you know, that energy? Usually forgiveness is what helps to release the past. The past sticks around because we're still feeling guilty about something, or something has not been forgiven. So let go of whatever is not serving you any longer. Number 6, quit worrying about what other people think. We give too much energy, you know, worrying about, like, did I say that right? Did I do that right? Did I hurt their feelings? That sort of thing. Like, of course, if somebody's feelings like accidentally got hurt or anything like that, you know, you want to deal with it. But, you know, this whole notion of, you know, like, well, if I raise my prices, what will people think? If I ask for the sale, what will people think? If I reach out to somebody and ask them, you know, to work with me and be my client, what will people think? Like, I remember hearing this one time and it really impacted me. She goes, I forget who said it. It was a woman. And she said, until what people thinks pays my bills, I'm not going to worry about it. Right? Other people's opinions do not pay the bills. They don't get the job done. And more often than not, we've made it up in our head what other people are thinking, right? If you are standing in your values, if you are being true to yourself, if you are being authentic and real and coming with good intentions, chances are, like, nobody's going to misconstrue what you're about and get offended, you know, unintentionally. And chances are, if you're doing all of those things and somebody got offended, I would venture a guess that that person is the type of person who was waiting to be offended. We've met that person before. We pray for them, right? We have patience for them, but we don't change our lives and we don't change our business for them, because there would have been nothing you could do to not offend that person. So, you know, be true to yourself. To thine, O self, be true. And don't worry too much about what other people are thinking about. And in the homework, I'm having you focus on your core values instead of what people will think. So rewrite your core values. That again came from week 4 in number 6 in the homework. Number 7, make your action plan easy to execute. Don't keep it at the big overview of, you know, I'm going to use Melinda for example. Like, I want to be promoted to the next level. That's great. That's an awesome goal. But break it down. Break it down to what are the milestones? Like, you know, then what's the next subset of milestones you would have to hit? And then in between those, what are the subsets that you need to hit? You want to break it down to the point where you have baby steps and daily habits that will take you there. And if you haven't read the book, The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. This is one of my favorite business books, and it's an easy read, and you're going to start reading it and it's going to click. You're going to be like, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. He talks about the daily things, the things that are as easy to do as they were easy not to do. Those are the things that take you from near failure to like mild success, to like just doing better, making it, that sort of thing, to wildly successful. You know, it's the daily habits. It's the things that that we do regularly that will see us to success. We oftentimes overcomplicate things because we make them so big, you know. And, you know, I was thinking about this, like today was a somewhat complicated day for me. Like there was a lot going on. I was starting to get a little bit stressed just because it was like, I'm going to have to go from this to this to this. And in between, I'm going to have to get this and this done. And da, da, da. Sometimes I do that to myself and I get myself a little overwhelmed and I could feel myself getting anxious. And then I like refocused, and like the daily practice I have, the thing that's as easy for me to do as it's easy not to do, I've already talked about it, is focusing on the difference I want to make for other people. And you know what? It took me a moment. And like that, I felt calm and I was looking forward to everything I was doing today. For me, the thing that's as easy to do as it is not to do is focus on the difference I want to make for other people. Like when I do that, everything else falls into place and gets easier, right? But if I didn't do it, because it's just as easy not to do, it's just as easy to just focus on my calendar and my schedule and my to-dos and and keep my energy there. It is just as easy because I don't have to give it any thought or any attention. It just naturally happens. But it's just as easy for me to refocus myself, right? So identify for you those things. Now, for me, that's a mental mind shift. The other things that are just as easy to do as not easy to do is, meditate for 5 minutes here and there throughout the day, just to keep myself calm, keep myself focused, that sort of thing. Drink water first thing in the morning. Make sure I have a good beverage, water, tea, my fizz drink, always making sure I'm hydrated throughout the day. So easy to do, so easy to forget. There's also the days when I sit with an empty cup next to me and for like an hour or two, I'll look at it and go, I have to refill that. Yeah, I got to refill that. I'll do one more thing. Just go refill it. So, they could be mental mind shifts, or they could be like the easy tasks that you can just bang out of the way. But I want you to break your goals down into the baby steps, the daily habits, the smaller milestones. Know what the whole plan is, but make it as easy for you as possible. Make your action plan easy to execute. All right, number 8, know when to cut your losses, right? The dip or a dead end, is what you're working on getting you nowhere? Is it like, are you working harder and harder and harder and harder and you just can't get traction? Like, if the amount of work you're putting in is not equal to the output, something's off. Like, and if you're not making progress, like sometimes there's a tipping point where you're like, when you first start, you're like, I'm having to go to a lot of networking events to get people to know about me and hear about me. And I have to go to a lot and do a lot of coffee dates and da-da-da-da-da. But then slowly over time, you notice somebody knows your name and you haven't met them before. They heard of you. You're like, okay, like I'm getting traction. This is working. And then somebody who you don't know reaches out to you and says, somebody recommended you, so I knew I had to talk to you. You're like, that's even better. That's progress, right? So there can be times where we're putting in a lot of work, not getting a lot back, but there's progress and we can see the difference it's making. And then it gets to a point where it's almost like it's just maintenance. You may have even scaled back at that point because you did hit the tipping point. You don't have to be networking and out there as often as you were when you were new and nobody knew what you were up to and what you were doing. Now you just do, like for me, it's like, my BNI meeting on Thursday. I'm on a board for a local nonprofit supporting women. I'm definitely not doing, I have my peaks and valleys, but compared to the first couple of years in my business, when I would take any coffee date that anyone offered, and I was going to different like social networking events, and I had my BNI group, but I was also visiting other chapters, like, it has definitely scaled back from that time, so I hit a tipping point. So it takes some evaluation, but I want you guys to take an honest look. Like, is something not working? I was doing mastermind groups and those were fun and people got a lot out of them. If they had made me money, I would have continued to do them because they were, like, for me, they were a lot of fun, but they did not make me money. And I tried doing them several different ways and they just became a frustration and I cut my losses. And so when people ask me now, are you thinking of doing another mastermind group? I'm like, nope, not at this point. Nothing has changed. If something changes and makes me think, oh, if I did it this way, I could probably make some money, great. But at that point, it was just like I was putting my business in jeopardy. Like, if I had run another mastermind group, I'm pretty sure my business would have been in jeopardy. So, you do have to know when to cut your losses and move on. Okay, number 9, take responsibility for your actions. Don't blame other people for what's going wrong in your business. It's a waste of time. It causes a good deal of stress, and in the end, you don't gain anything by it. So you want to own up to your accomplishments and your failures, right? So So it goes back to own who you are, own what you're capable of. Feel free to tell people of your accomplishments and what you're capable of and that sort of thing. And also, if you're in a situation where something has gone wrong, look to see where you were responsible, right? And it doesn't mean that you take all of the blame, like I did all of this and I created this whole problem. But at least if you acknowledge, this is what I contributed to the problem. This is this, and, may have caused a chain reaction where other people messed up too. But it's important to just own it, acknowledge it, atone for it, move on, right? More often than not, and it's a great learning lesson. If we can see where we were responsible, we can see where we could do things differently next time. But if we're blaming other people and circumstances for all our failures, then there's nothing to learn, right? There's nothing to be gained. All we say is like, oh, well, I shouldn't work with that person, or that circumstance doesn't work for me anymore. So with this group, I'm not overly worried about this one. I definitely included this in the book because you just don't know, like with a book, you just don't know who's going to read it and what people need to hear. But I think I would say in my career and in my business, where I've gained the most traction is where I took responsibility when things didn't go well and saw what I could do differently. When you take responsibility, the next thing that opens up for you is what you can do differently. So, as a practice, and I'm not saying try to control things that are out of your control or take blame for things that are out of your control. Like, don't make yourself crazy. But just see to look where, okay, I made this decision and it caused this result. That was me. I can see that. Take responsibility. And then lastly, number 10, stop and smell the roses. You have to, and you'll hear me say this over and over and over again, rewarding yourself, acknowledging your accomplishment, celebrating it, that gives you momentum to take the next step. Like sometimes we make the mistake of just checking the box and moving on, like done, yay. Okay, what else needs to be done? Next. And then we wonder why we're so tired and we're burnt out and we're just, when are we going to hit the end and all of this stuff? Like, it is okay to take a moment and just be like, stop and be like, even if it's 20%, you're 20% to goal. Like, I am 20%. I've gotten this far. Like, I'm ready for the next 20%. I do that during my burpee workouts. Every now and again, I'm like, all right, what percentage of the workout am I done? Sometimes in my head, I'll work out. When will I, at what number will I be at 20%, 40%, 60%? Not always, but every now and again, I get energized by numbers and stats and stuff like that. Plus, it's a nice distraction for me. So I'm not always focusing on, how the heels of my hands are feeling after doing 500 chest to ground push-ups, but getting to the point where I'm like, I'm at 100 burpees. That's awesome. And I got them done faster this time than I did the first workout I did. It took me a long time to get 100 burpees done. Now, not to say I'm like super lightning fast, but I'm getting them the first 100 done way faster than I did the original first workout I did where I got 100 burpees done. So I look for, even within one workout, I'm looking for things to celebrate, milestones to acknowledge, to feel good about. Do the same for yourself. Celebrate along the way. It is so energizing, and it will definitely help you gain more success. So, and I also included this quote by Vincent van Gogh, which I love, and it's also in the book. Great things are not done by impulse, but by a series of small things brought together. Your big goals is a string of small things brought together. Like, just remember that. Don't overwhelm yourself. Break it down. Celebrate. You have got this. Okay, and lastly, on the worksheet is the common pitfalls that get in the way of your goals. And these are typically, for my people-pleasing type A women. These are the common pitfalls. So typically we're slowing our progress to achieving our goals because we're still doing most of the work. We're not delegating, we're not outsourcing, or we're still in situations where we're volunteering to take on tasks that could be done by other people, right? Again, this goes back to the episode I did about being the lone wolf. This gets us into trouble. Like, I know that when you had smaller goals, it was easier for you to just do it yourself. I get it. I've been there. I could completely be in control of the beginning, the middle, and the end. It would be done to my specs. It would be done to my standard of excellence. You know, my name was on it and I could feel good turning it in. But you are now in the point in your life where you have too much going on. Your goals are too big. Your responsibilities are too big. You cannot do it all on your own. You are now at the next level of leadership where you share the load. And this helps other people. Like, we've talked about that. Like, you might be able to find people where it's a win-win, you know, for them. There's likely people out there looking for work and you can give it to them. Or they're looking to be a part of something bigger than themselves and you can give that to them, right? They're looking to make a difference and you can give that to them. So, you know, it can be uncomfortable. It can feel vulnerable to ask for help. It can be feel vulnerable to say you need help, you know, but take on the practice. Like, allow other people to contribute to you. You may have to train them for a while. It may take them making some mistakes for a while, but just know that's part of the process. It's part of the learning curve. And I'm taking this on with you guys. For me, sometimes my mistake is I don't think far enough ahead to think about what work can I give my virtual assistant. It's usually I think of something like right when it needs to get done. And I'm just like, it would take me more time to reach out to her, explain what needs to get done. And by the time she has it, the turnaround will be so quick, it wouldn't be feasible, you know, that sort of thing. So whatever you have to do, for me, it's like, I need to think about what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, right? That's a practice I need to take on so that I can talk to my VA now about a project that needs to be completed 2 weeks. Does she have time over the next couple of weeks to do that? So whatever it is that's holding you back from delegating, outsourcing, and stopping yourself from volunteering for things that other people could be doing, recognize that. And this is something myself and several other friends are working on. We are the doers of the world, right? If you want something done, give it to a busy person. They're talking about us. They are talking about us, right? Because we're the type of people who, when we see something not getting done that we feel is important, we're like, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I'll do it, right? But there are other people who are also waiting back and they're like, well, don't volunteer because Jody and Amy and Melinda and Zoe, they'll volunteer, they'll do it, they'll take it, you know, don't worry about it, you know, hold back. Let somebody else volunteer. You might be amazed. It may take an uncomfortable amount of time and silence, but something will get figured out. Like, even if it means the whole group has to have a discussion about how important is it for this thing to get done. I want you guys to really, like, unless it's like within your family and it's an emergency, like something is on fire or somebody's hurt or somebody will get hurt, you know, I want you guys to practice holding back to allow other people to volunteer, step forward, and learn. Okay, I'm going to step off my soapbox now. The next thing, the common pitfall, is you're still saying yes to things when you want or need to say no. It could be out of a belief, I mean, out of guilt, or, you know, like I said before, like you're volunteering for something because you believe nobody else will, or you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, so you say, yes, I'll do that. Or, you know, there's a commitment, you know, you really need to step away from, and again, you're worrying about what other people might think. Go back to your values and what's important. Take a look at your goals and how important are these goals? Are these goals more important than these other things that are taking up your time or you're being asked to do? You know, keep your goals front and center, keep your values front and center. That will help you keep focus. And take on the practice that you don't say yes to anything until you have an opportunity to go back to review your goals and review your calendar. And you can even say that to people like, wow, thank you for thinking of me. Thank you for asking me. I can't say yes to anything until I go back and I review what's coming up over the next few weeks, few months. I have to take a look at my goals. I have to take a look at my calendar. I'm flattered you asked me, and I promise I'll let you know within the next 24 hours whether or not I can do this. And then take an honest look at this thing you're being asked to do. Does it outweigh, the importance of everything else that's going on? There may be an opportunity that comes along that you're like, wow, this is way better than the goals I have, or this will get me a much better result than what I was originally intended. I didn't create goals that were big enough for me. This one's even better. That could happen, but you have to be able to take that time to review it. Just remember, sometimes when opportunities first appear, they look really shiny and we don't ask the right questions. We don't ask about the full scope of the responsibility that we're going to have to take on. It sounds really great in the beginning, and then we realize the workload was anywhere from 3 to 10 times what we thought it was going to be. So I'm just going to say, use caution before you say yes to anything that comes up over the next 6 months, 6 to 9 months or so. Okay, the last common pitfall is you may have experienced some setbacks and you're not as enthusiastic as you were in the beginning, right? This is when we succumb to the dip, right? There's nothing wrong with the dip. We always know if there's a big goal, it's going to take some work, it's going to take time, we're going to have to get better at some things, we're going to have to do stretch, stretch ourselves to become the person we didn't realize we could be at the outset. Like we kind of had an inkling of, but we didn't fully know that we could step into it. That's always going to happen. But losing some of the excitement and some of the enthusiasm doesn't mean you give up, right? What it typically means is those setbacks stole your energy, right? Your stress reaction kicked in. So typically when we have a setback and we lose enthusiasm, what that usually points to is level 1 energy, right? Like, again, why me? Why bother? This isn't going to make a difference anyway. Nobody's going to listen to me. Oh, this is just like that time before when this happened. Oh, that bums me out. This is so hard, blah, 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 right? You can hear it. You can hear the story in it too. So I want you to change your perspective on challenges, failures, setbacks, so that your energy isn't getting depleted by it. It's all story. We have a setback and then we tell ourselves a story. I'm not really good at this, or I'll never get good at this, or this is harder than I thought it was going to be. Look at those things as experiments, right? Maybe it's just the first few times you've tried this and, you're still figuring out your way and you'll get better at it. You just need to take some more time or give it, it's you in training, right? And you'll get better at it. I remember early in my business, sometimes people would be like, I want coaching. They'd be really excited. And in my own inexperience of the sales process, I would mess it up. I wasn't very articulate. I wasn't clear. I didn't set good expectations. I didn't have a good follow-up system. I was very green when I started my business. And it was very upsetting. There were a lot of setbacks and challenges and obstacles and all of that. But I'm now at the point where I have learned so much that, I know when to talk. I know when to not talk. I know when, a follow-up needs to happen. And I know that follow-up needs to get scheduled, that you just don't leave it as like, yeah, let's touch base sometime and see where you are later. It's like, well, how is Thursday? Like, can you get on a call Thursday, right? Things like that. We learn from our failures and our setbacks and our challenges, So take on the mentality that these are experiments, right? That they're things you're trying out and that you're going to learn from them, because otherwise you'll just feel like you're just getting pinged and pinged and pinged and pinged. You're not. change the perspective. You're learning, you're growing, you're expanding, you're getting stronger, you're getting smarter, you're getting savvier. You know, it's all just part of the process. So we are at 10 minutes of, so this has gone about 50 minutes. I've covered the homework, the worksheet. If you have any questions or you need some coaching and you're not going to be able to make the call on Thursday, definitely email me, let me know, because I can address it even if you can't be on the call. So I hope this is finding you all doing great, and hopefully I'll see you all on Thursday. Have a good night.